All right, guys, and welcome back to JBSR Plays It. Once again, we are late in the week, but not as late as last week. We actually get to pick the Thursday night game. So a couple things real quick. I was supposed to do 3 podcasts this week. I was going to do in the middle of the week the my midpoint power rankings. I got a lot going on with Halloween. I've got a Halloween special for both my comic and for the main channel going on, so I didn't have time this week. I wrote everything out. I just don't have the extra hour to spare to record that podcast. I barely have enough time to do this, and I'm already doing this podcast right now will make one or both of those things not go up on time. So expect my Halloween special video to go up on November 1st out of spite for myself and everyone else. So yeah, didn't have the time to film it. I did draw up everything as far as who, like, the rankings were. I can tell you right now, the Cowboys lost to the Redskins, and I still had them as my number 2 team on the power rankings. Just because that was kind of a fluky thing as a division rival. You can't penalize them too much. And I look at the whole season. Teams get dropped week to week. Especially if you look at that's why I want to do these in the middle of the season. I can look at the entirety of the season. They have played essentially 3 bad games and won one of them. They were down huge to St. Louis and still managed to win that game. I can't even call this a bad game. DeMarco Murray with 8 straight 100-yard rushes. It wasn't even a bad game. It's just Tony Romo got hurt. And he might miss next week, so this will be an interesting thing to watch. But we essentially got Brandon Weeden versus Kurt McCoy for a little bit. That's an interesting little dilemma. And much like how it went down in Cleveland, Colt McCoy was the better option. Oh, well, Brandon Weeden, I think he only threw like 8 pass attempts or something and completed 6. So, but anyways, yeah, so I do actually have that. I have, the power rankings. And I actually went through and predicted every single game for the rest of the season to sort of generate what I thought the standings would be. Obviously, that's going to change now, but I figure it'll give you a little heads up. But right now, I think I actually managed to pick New Orleans getting to 10-6 in that terrible, terrible division. And that's based a lot off of their win over Green Bay. The fact that they don't lose at home, and the fact that their schedule is fairly easy from here on out. So 7-2 for the rest of the season, not out of the question, but it remains to be seen. I also have the Bills and Seahawks both at 10-6, and both missing the playoffs. So obviously that's not going to happen. Mostly because I don't think the Bills will go 10-6, but if they win the games they should, they could. But anyways, that's enough of the what ifs. I changed my offensive rookie of the year because I wasn't paying attention to everything. Because I think originally I had Kelvin Benjamin written down, and if I'm going with a wide receiver, and I might be biased, but I see no reason not to give it to Sammy Watkins at this point, considering the monster numbers he's managed to put up the last few weeks with Kyle Orton. So, the bias out of the way. Let's actually go through and recap the games. And I already did the Denver-San Diego game. So we'll start off with those Buffalo Bills and Sammy Watkins making his rookie bonehead mistake. Was it Deshaun Jackson a few years ago? Who sort of spiked the ball at the 1-yard line instead of a touchdown. It was a touchback. It wasn't quite that bad. Sammy Watkins, and the Bills won 43-23, so it wasn't a big deal. Sammy Watkins, 84-yard catch. I'm sure you heard the story. Should have been an 89-yard catch and a touchdown, but started celebrating, didn't think that the converted wide receiver cornerback that was directly on his heels could catch him. And because he was celebrating, he caught him. But he still ended up three catches, 157 yards and a touchdown. Kyle Orton had 17 attempts. He went 10 of 17 for 238 yards and 4 touchdowns. That means I love yards per attempt. Throw that out the window for a second. Every time he completed a pass, it went for 23.8 yards. That is astounding. They had no rush game whatsoever, but with those numbers that Kyle Orton was put up, Boobie Dixon, 22 rushes for 44 yards. I don't understand why they even bothered stopping to throw the ball. But, again, and I guess this is funny every time the Bills play a game. The story is always about the team that they played. And this week is no exception. Geno Smith went 2 of 8 with 3 picks. He threw more interceptions than he did completions. So he got benched, I believe, in like the first quarter. Like, I don't even think he got an entire half. For Michael Vick, who came out and threw an interception and then fumbled twice. But finished 18 to 36 for 153 yards otherwise. And also 69 rushing yards. So Michael Vick is going to get the start. I still feel like with Percy Harvin, you can't just judge it off of 1 week with them having him. Geno Smith, and Rex has come out and said Michael Vick is a starter, but it is a week-to-week basis. There is absolutely no reason Geno Smith shouldn't be able to put something good like this should help Geno Smith. You can say what you want about Percy Harvin. The simple fact is he's a better option than what the Jets have been having. You can argue for, I'm not saying he's better than Eric Decker, but he's certainly better than David Nelson and TJ Graham, who are 2 Bills cast-off. Back from the day when they didn't have wide receivers. So clearly he upgrades that position. Jason Morrow is starting to come out. He was the leading receiver for the Jets. I don't understand. Like, if you're Geno Smith, you are set up to succeed right now, as well as you can be set up to succeed. And, Vic, I don't think it'll last long. I think they'll put Geno Smith in. I think you can officially say Geno Smith is not the answer. You can also probably say that I just threw the worst interception in Tampa Bay Bucs history, except then I remember Josh McCown. Apparently I cannot. Okay, I just threw an awesome freaking 100-yard pick six. Go Shane. I'm so used to. I've started doing in all my other franchises. I pick a mobile quarterback because I figured out that if I play well enough, I'm a 99 overall by the time the first season's over. So I just go with a mobile quarterback because those are the harder stats to upgrade, and I just go from there. That is not this franchise. So Michael Vick will be out. You put Geno Smith in, he'll fail. Rex is going to be gone. Idzik should be gone, but he might not. Hopefully Rex, if he doesn't land a head coaching job next year, hopefully at least manages to get himself into a good position as a defensive coordinator. And sort of like as a 1-year deal thing, and then sort of move on. Sort of like how Mike Patton came to the Bills for a year, solidified that defense, and got himself a head coaching job in Cleveland. And might I add, doing a pretty good job over there, all things considered. It's a terrible season. I know I said a while ago that I thought the Jets had a chance to turn the season around. No. No, they don't. Not anymore. Next up, we'll move to the England game, where the Lions manage to win somehow. I don't know how. 22-21, because the Falcons managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And luckily, the Lions kicker actually made a kick for once. And what's interesting about this game is Matt Ryan actually didn't have the most yards. Golden Tate went nuts, which is good to see. I'm hoping Matthew Stafford has always been one of those guys where he just throws the ball at one guy and one guy and one guy. It just happens to have been Calvin Johnson, who was a beast. And now he's throwing it to Golden Tate. And I'm wondering when Calvin Johnson gets back, which should be next week, if they manage to find a way to get both of them the ball. Because then you've got a pretty, you got yourself in pretty good shape. The Falcons, it's a done season. I thought it was pretty much done beforehand, but now they are just done. So it's tough. You're literally wasting Matt Ryan's best season as a starter. You're just wasting it away for, I don't know, just due to ineptitude. Mike Smith, should he be gone at the end of the year? Probably. 2 straight years with too many weapons on offense. That's coming down to the coaching getting stale. Your defense sucks, and you got a good offense. Rex Ryan, we were just talking about him. There's a place for you to go. And the Lions, and I said this on Twitter or Facebook to Eric, and I think in some ways it doesn't quite balance out, but the Lions have the best defense in the NFL. When you're talking best defenses, you throw them up there, you throw the Bills up there. The Jets would be playing a better defense if they had a better offense. You don't put the Seahawks up there. We're learning that this year. You do not put the Seahawks up there. I feel like I'm disrespecting somebody hardcore, and I really don't know who the Cardinals, I guess you would throw up there, all things considered. You've got some really good defenses, but the Lions have the best one. And their offense is sputtering. And it reminds me in some ways, not a lot, not all, I'm not going to say they're this good, but it reminds me a lot of those 2000 Baltimore Ravens team who managed to, I think, not score a touchdown for 5 straight weeks and won 4 of them. Or some ridiculous stat like that. Trent Dilfer, everyone keeps making the joke. It's like, oh, he's the worst starting quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. He really is. Like, he really is. Mostly helped by the fact that Lovie Smith didn't get the job done when he was in Chicago, because that would definitely have been Rex Grossman. But Trent Dilfer might be the worst quarterback he was a cast-off, and he didn't even end up on the Ravens the next year. That's how, you can win a Super Bowl with Alex Smith. Let's take him. He's never going to throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. He's not going to do that for you. But he's a good enough quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I'd take him on the Bills. He would solidify that position. You don't need an all-star quarterback. Peyton Manning only has 1 ring. Tom Brady's got 3. They've been playing in the league for, 98 for Peyton, 2001 for Brady. Other quarterbacks have won it in that span, and they haven't all been Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger and Eli. That's been a majority of them. Other quarterbacks have gone in there. Russell Wilson got 1. You don't need an all-star quarterback. And even Russell Wilson, there's your good example. He's not going to be a big stats guy. He's a great leader, but he's not a stats guy. So you don't have to get in there with a good quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford is a very good quarterback. And you can win a Super Bowl with him with the right team. And with this defense playing the way they are, they could. So I don't think they're necessarily as desperate on offense as that Baltimore Ravens team is. And I think the fact that they've been sputtering on offense, which is supposed to be their strong point, and they're 6-2 right now. And one of those losses was based on basically the kicker against the Bills. Trust me, I will take that win any day of the week, but the Bills should not have won that game if their kicker can make a kick. It is a very good Lions team. Caldwell, I make fun of him all the time. I don't think he's the best coach in the world, but I think he's good enough. I think he can get them to a Super Bowl. I don't know if that's this year, but I don't know who the contenders are in the NFC right now. I really don't. And that's basically where this is coming from. I will say that I think the Cowboys are the best team in the NFC, but I'm doing that based off of who's good right now. But Tony Romo just hurt his back. DeMarco Murray had a season-low 19 carries. Still ran for over 100, so he's a beast. So he doesn't need the carries to get the yards. He's already over 1,000 yards on the season. DeMarco Murray will eventually need to wear down. He'll eventually get worn down. It's going to happen. And because they play in the same division as the Eagles, it's not even like they get a breather. If you put them where they should be aligned in the NFC South, they'd already be 3 games up. So, I don't know who the favorites are, but the Lions play the type of football that can win you a championship. Because everyone says defense plays championships, and everyone says, oh, not nowadays. Yes, nowadays. And if you want proof of that, it's not like, what did the Seahawks play? Amazing defense, one of the best defenses of all time, efficient offense. Ground and pound offense. That kind of team could have won the Super Bowl back in the 70s, back in the 80s, back in the early 90s. That could have happened. So, it's still true today. The Lions are playing great defense, overcoming a lot of deficiencies by their offense to still win games. And you would like to think that Matthew Stafford can turn it around at some point, and hopefully he can. But if he can't, this defense will still get him the 10 wins by themselves. And then Ndamukong Suh could win a Super Bowl and then march off the field. That could happen. Next up, we got the Battle of Missouri. The Kansas City Chiefs annihilate the St. Louis Rams. And this is a game that I thought would be a lot closer. I really did, because I really like what the Rams were doing. And I do maintain, I will always maintain, Austin Davis, that's your quarterback next year. Cut Sam Bradford, you save yourself, I think, like $20 million. Just get rid of him. Be smart and just get rid of him. Use that, go grab a wide receiver. I'm sure you can find one. And just move on. Let Stafford go sit on the bench somewhere else. And you look at the stat line for a team that won 134-0, and Alex Smith didn't throw a touchdown pass. Jamal Charles only ran for 67 yards. Between the two of them, that's what, 290 yards or something like that. Out of your basically 2 skill players on offense, your 2 main skill players. The stats aren't there, but they won big. So it just shows, I think it was special teams that they ended up scoring some. Chiefs are 4-3. Chiefs have had some bad games. They have not regressed the way a lot of people thought they would, including myself. I thought maybe they'd be about in like that 2-5, 2-5 territory. They're 4-3. They play in a tough division, but wild card is not out of their grasp, because as of right now, if the playoffs started today, 5-3 takes both of those wild card spots, and the number 5 seed is the San Diego Chargers, and the number 6 seed is the Buffalo Bills. And the Chiefs play the Bills when the Bills get back from the bye in a couple weeks. So again, the Bills are playing a lot of very meaningful football games this year as far as tiebreakers go, because a lot of these teams are starting to rise up, and who knows by the end of the year what it'll mean. But you lose to the Chargers, that could be a big tiebreaker. You got the Chiefs and you got the Browns. Or no, you don't. Do they play? Yeah, they play the Browns. Those are some fairly important games. Not to mention another wild card contender is sitting in Miami. And unfortunately that loss to New England, that's sort of they could be contending for the division right now, but now they're out because New England's playing on fire. So not really much else to say about this game, but thought it would be closer. Before I move on to the Texans and Titans. So usually when I pick these games, I always think that 10-6 gets you a wild card, so 10-6 should be considered a good week. So in the first 10 games, including the Thursday night game, I went 10-0. I got the Thursday night game right, and I got all 9 of the early afternoon games right. 10-0 in my picks. I was excited. And then for the rest of the week, the afternoon games and the 2 night games, I went 0-5. So, good win, good week. What the hell does that get me up to on the season? That gets me up to 69, 49-1. Still 10 games over 500. Excuse me. So, that just kind of annoyed me. But yeah, so, Texans beat the Titans 30-16. Everyone wants to talk about the selfie. I don't really care about the selfie. J.J. Watt with another 2 sacks. Zach Mettenberger. And again, if you look at the stat line, 27 to 41, 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. You know what? Stat line or not, that's a lot better than I expected a 6th-round pick to play. With J.J. Watt in his face all day. So, good job, Zach Mettenberger. Good job. Still think he should be on the bench. Texans are 4-4. There's another loss that the Bills had that could potentially have playoff implications. Although I feel like, what did I have? I had Houston only going 8-8, so they've got a tougher schedule ahead. And do you trust Ryan Fitzpatrick? Because I don't. And Tennessee, spoiler alert, as of right now, Tennessee would finish number 29 on my rankings. I put them behind the Jets. I did put them ahead of the Redskins. Even though the Redskins beat them, I might have to switch that. So they might be down to number 30. We got the game that nobody cared about this week. We got the Minnesota Vikings winning 19 to 13 over the Buccaneers in overtime on a forced fumble return. Teddy Bridgewater, 22-42, 241 yards and a touchdown. McKinnon, who is the running back that they have that I always forget his name, he ran for 83 yards. My running back just fumbled on the last play of the damn game. Please. The trading deadline came and went. The Buccaneers did trade a bunch of people. Neither of them were Zach Martin, and that's who they should have, or Doug Martin, and that's who they should have traded. This is just an ugly game to watch. I believe at one point, at the beginning of the third quarter, it was 3-0. The Vikings were winning. 3-0 after halftime. That's the kind of game that you were witnessing Sunday. So, good job. I don't really want to talk about this game. I don't really want to talk about the next game either. Seattle Seahawks. Oh, and by the way, my prediction that the Buccaneers could still win the NFC South. Pretend I never said that, please. So Seattle Seahawks beat the Carolina Panthers like everyone expected. Oh wait, no, they didn't. It was 13-9. 13-9. That is. That's inexcusable if you're supposed to be this team that everyone thought was going to go undefeated at the beginning of the season. That's not happening now. And like I said, I don't even have them making the playoffs at this point. A lot of people still maintain that Seattle is going to end up being really good and they're too good on paper. Listen, when I did my power rankings, I didn't care about how good you were last year, how good you were on paper. I did take into account injuries. That's why the Cardinals were number 5. Although I'm kind of glad I'm waiting until next week because they got the Cowboys next. So this will actually be a lot clearer after next week's slate of games. So I'm almost glad I'm doing it. But a lot of people still have like the Seahawks at like number 7. No, I have it number 12. I don't even like them that high. I wanted to drop them lower, but I could not put them below the Bills. This was not happening. Their defense doesn't look good. Their offense has looked worse because they're getting rid of everyone. Marshawn Lynch is gone after the season. We all knew that coming into the season, but now we really know it. Russell Wilson needs somebody to throw the ball to, and they thought he was going to have all of these weapons. He was going to have Doug Baldwin, and he was going to have, what the hell is it? He was going to have Sidney Rice and Percy Harvin. He had Golden Tate at one point. Well, 3 of those 4 are gone. So, it's not looking too good for them. And the Panthers, they played a close game. And Kelvin Benjamin with another 94 yards. But it's just... The Seahawks could easily turn it around. But the problem is they won a lot of last year's games based on luck. Because they out-schemed and everything. And people are starting to figure that out. and this is why I'm always more of an old school kind of guy, it's harder to defend execution. Schemes only work for so long, and if you want that, just ask the Miami Dolphins how that Wildcat's going lately. I think about it, that was a position for a while, the Wildcat. People were drafting the likes of Pat Harris out of West Virginia, specifically to be a Wildcat quarterback. Not the starting quarterback, just a Wildcat quarterback, and they used a second rounder on him. That was a thing for a few years. And the Dolphins got to be kicking themselves for that. So I don't know. Their schemes aren't working. They've got good players, but they're playing college football. And don't give me the whole, well, that makes sense because Pete Carroll's a college coach. He did coach in the NFL before. That, you know, who do you think was the guy in between Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick? It was Pete Carroll. But he's playing too much college ball over there, I think. They could make it work, but I don't know. All right, next game up, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals taking care of business 27-24 against the Baltimore Ravens. And you guys want to talk about the catch, I'm sure, and I haven't seen it, but everyone's saying it's the right call to make, except for those who play for the Baltimore Ravens. Tough, you know? Tough. He made a penalty. It happens, you know? The way Steve Smith plays, he's very much in your face and everything, and sometimes he's get penalized for that, and unfortunately, it just happened to be on that play. So the Bengals, you know, get a win. They win ugly. They're still in first. They're back in first place in that division. But I know I pick them every week and I pick against the Ravens every week. But I think when I went through and jotted everything down, I think I had the Ravens at something like 12-4, and the Bengals at 10-5-1, and squeaking into that last wild card spot. It's just, I don't know. I mean, they get AJ Green back hopefully next week, if not the week after, and that's going to help them big time. But the NFC North is ridiculous right now. The NFC South, every single team is under 500. In the AFC North, every team is above 500. Not at 500 or better, above. The Cleveland Browns are in last place at 4-3. The Steelers and Ravens are 5-3, and the Bengals are 4-2-1. That is ridiculous. Flacco had a pretty bad game, and that was probably the big leading factor. I bet just for his fantasy value, people were hoping that touchdown would have counted. See, again, don't play fantasy football, and you'll enjoy the games more. But everyone wants to play fantasy. I don't, because I don't have enough friends who play football. But if I had some friends who watch football, maybe I'd play it some more. But I don't. Whatever. No thanks. But yeah. So. Good job. I don't really want to talk too much about that game because it's sort of like I'm not in love with what the Bengals are doing right now. And I really like the way that Baltimore is playing, but it will disgust me if after this season they get to hold up the Lombardi Trophy. It will just disgust me. And I fear that is a possibility. As much as I think the Broncos are going to go 15-1 or 14-2. I feel like that's a possibility. So next up, we've got the Battle of Florida. You know, the two teams where no one shows up to their games? Yeah, those two. Well, there's three. Tampa Bay, I don't think anyone shows up for that either. The Miami Dolphins win 27-13. Yeah, I said no one shows up for the Dolphins games either. Not when they're terrible, and they have been for a while. Blake Bortles, you know what? I think Peyton Manning, he had like 29 interceptions in his rookie season. So don't be too worried. You know, if he throws a ton of interceptions, because literally he's a rookie. His 3 top wideouts are rookies. Most of his offensive line are rookies or one-year guys. Luke joke is correct. I think I've made that joke before. Denard Robinson, 108 yards. Yeah, it's a very, very young team. They lost Pizlesny for the season. That's what you get for leaving Buffalo, you douchebag. I'm sorry, I'm still a little bitter about that. I always will be. And the Dolphins win. Tannehill doesn't look nearly as good. He's definitely becoming a system quarterback, but that's the thing that can work. Maybe not in the Super Bowl, but how do we know? How many people have been system quarterbacks and been very successful? We can tell right now that Peyton Manning wasn't a system quarterback. He's just really, really smart. He's not even really athletic. I think it was, I don't know if it was, who was talking about it. I want to say Coward because that seems right. He's not a very athletic guy, but he's very smart. His arm strength is basically completely fallen off, and it doesn't really matter because he doesn't have to deliver 80-yard strikes. He's just sort of got to drop that pass because he knows exactly where the route's going. His wide receivers know where to be. And I know it was on Move the Sticks. That's what it was, Move the Sticks. And literally when he takes his receivers over to practice, what he does is he practices with them until he can throw routes to them blindfolded. That's what he wants to do. So Tannehill's going to be a system quarterback. If it gets him to 9 wins, then I don't think anyone's going to care. Considering this guy was about to be benched a couple weeks ago, I don't think anybody's going to care if he's a system quarterback just running what Philly wants. And might I add, Tannehill is sort of exactly what they were looking for in Philly, and they just ended up getting Nick Foles. So he's actually a perfect fit for this system. Sorry, Foles. I still doubt you. I've seen too many like you come and go. And they all played for the Buffalo Bills. Rest in peace, Trent Edwards, wherever you may be. Moving on to another beatdown. The Patriots win 51-23 over the Bears, but don't worry, Bears fans, it was not as close as that score indicates. Tom Brady, 5 incompletions, 5 touchdowns. Gronkowski playing like Gronkowski. Now, again, and this is what everyone keeps saying now, how long until he gets hurt again? How long is he going to be Gronk? And maybe you get the rest of the season out of him in some of the playoffs. Maybe he got all his injured time out of the way in the beginning of the year when you didn't need him. Because he literally, this is game number 8 for them, and he basically took the first 6 off. Well, not off, but he didn't really play very well. Jay Cutler, on the other hand, I think they want him gone, but they just gave... I don't know why you gave this guy such a huge contract. I will never understand it. This is my bias against Jay Cutler, and it's also because he's still probably the best quarterback the Bears have had in their entire history. From a pure passing standpoint. Like, this is what they spent all those years looking for. They won a Super Bowl with a guy, who... He ain't in the Hall of Fame. They never needed it. They had defense. Well, they don't have defense anymore. Now they got the offense. This is what you were missing. This is that grass is always greener thing. I don't... If I ever said Tom Brady... I think his skills are diminishing, but I feel like Peyton Manning's skills are diminishing too. You're talking about 2 of possibly the top 4 all-time best quarterbacks to ever play this game. When your skills diminish and you're only a top 7 all-time quarterback, I feel like... I don't think people understand exactly what that means. It's like, yeah, their skills have fallen off, but it doesn't mean anything. It's sort of like Devin Hester losing a step. Oh, no, now he's only going to run... now he's only going to have a 98 speed rating in Madden. It's just... that's just how it goes. They're older, they're diminishing a little bit. Doesn't mean they're bad by any means. I would still take Tom Brady. Like I said before, you don't want Tom Brady, trade him to the Bills. I'll take him. You're going to tell me you're going to give the Bills, whose offensive line is also in shambles, because they're trying to start all of these 7th-round rookies. You give me offensive line in shambles, but with better weapons, arguably, better weapons. And Brady's making some of these guys into better players than they are. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he's just a good enough quarterback where they can show their true skills. And the defense, the Patriots don't have a bad defense, but they've got, the Bills have a better defense. So yeah, you want to give me Tom Brady for a couple of years? Yeah, okay, thanks. I'll rent a ring. See if I care. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo, you'll see the field in 3 to 4 years, like Aaron Rodgers had to. That's just where you're going. I'm sorry. Next up in the Battle of the Birds, another tight one for the Cardinals, but they win 24-20. This is where my demise started. I should have picked the Cardinals like I wanted to. The Eagles last week looked really good, and I thought they had sort of finally figured it out and gone back to their 2013 form. And no, that's not a thing. Nick Foles again puts up a ton of yards, and again, it means absolutely nothing. Larry Fitzgerald playing like it's 2008 all over again. LaShawn McCoy with 83 yards. Again, not what you expect out of him, but 83 yards is nothing to complain about. Jeremy Maclin was on fire, 12 receptions, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm not going to sit here and say the Cardinals are for real, because I kind of had that feeling the whole time, but now I think they're a legit contender for the Super Bowl. Like, I thought they were a playoff team for sure, but now I think you talk about them in the Super Bowl. And especially because I don't know how long some of these guys are injured for, but I have a feeling if they make it deep into the playoffs, you might get some of them back. And I feel like they don't need them anyways. Malcolm Floyd went from replacing Larry Fitzgerald to no catches in this game. It's the ballsy plays. It's those ballsy plays. Again, that's what wins the game for him. It's throwing a 75-yard bomb on 3rd and whatever, when you're behind at the end of the 4th quarter. That's just what Arians is going to do, and guess what? It's working. Because everyone talks about how this is no longer a conservative league, this is a passing league, yada, yada, yada. Well, guess what? When you're still on 3rd and 2, either throwing a quick slant or running the ball up the middle, you're still playing conservative. Throw a 75-yard bomb if you want to talk to me how aggressive you are. And that's what Bruce Arians did. I don't think this affects the Eagles that much in the grand scheme of things. I still think they got a good chance at the playoffs. I think what they run is more sustainable than what the Cowboys run, so I still think if I had to put my money on it, I would put the Eagles in the winning the division. And it's not that I don't buy into the Cowboys. I do. I don't buy into their longevity due to injury. That's what it comes down to. Tony Romo's already hurt. He hurt his back, which he had back surgery in the offseason. Everyone wants to talk about the workload for DeMarco Murray, and you compound that with his injury history. So there's a lot not to like about that Cowboys team or not to feel confident in. So I wouldn't put money on them. But it's not, like I said earlier with the Lions, of all of the teams in the NFC right now, the Lions I feel like have the most sustainable and proven formula to get to the Super Bowl. It's, right now, you can eliminate half the, you look at the AFC, 11 teams are above 500 right now. The only teams under 500 are the Jets, the Titans, the Jaguars, and the Raiders. They're all terrible. You can kick them out of the playoffs now, but the other teams are very much so alive. Everyone else is at least 4-3. The NFC or the AFC is loaded. So, and it's not like this is college football where they're going to beat each other up and not be there in the end. They still get to be there in the end because there's not a ranking system determining whether or not they're going to make the playoffs. They're not getting voted on. They're not looking at quality of victory. It's just a matter of what's your record? Can you get to 10 wins? The NFC, on the other hand, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams, and then whoever wins the South as contenders. You can pretty much, I'm not going to say you can eliminate anyone else in the playoffs, but the Giants, iffy. Redskins, you can pretty much throw them out. The Bears, they're looking like you can throw them out. The Vikings are out. This is a lost season. They're at 3-5 right now, but I think that's the closest to 500 they'll be all year. Even the South, you can throw out the Falcons and the Bucks. They're done. You bring that down to the Panthers and Saints, and I still think whoever they are is just a nice first-round victory. Although I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints won their first-round game if it's at home. And in the West, you get everyone but the Rams. The Rams are out pretty much. Seahawks are in third place in that division. You can't really eliminate them from the playoffs just yet. So it's a lot less wide open in the NFC East, but of the Cowboys, Eagles, Lions, Packers, Cardinals, 49ers, and Seahawks, the Lions, I think, have the best chance at the Super Bowl. I think that the NFC North, those two teams have the better chance out of any of those teams. I don't like the 49ers. And it could just be very well that I'm rooting against them because of the whole Jim Harbaugh thing. Who knows? I think the Cardinals, I think they are the best coach team, and I think Bruce Arians, even if they go 10-6, he would get my vote for Coach of the Year. At this point, it doesn't really matter. He would get my vote for Coach of the Year. Sorry, John Fox. You're going to have a very good season, but you're also a very good team. So, yeah, the NFC, I don't really know what to make of it. So, who knows what's going to happen with this? Next up, the Browns with another game that they should win, but this time they do it. 23-13 over the Raiders. I really thought the Raiders were a better-looking team than they showed up to be. And part of that might be because I really want Derek Carr to do well. And I think he is. I think he's fine. All things considered, he might have the most barren roster in the NFL to work with. James Jones, I believe, is his number one receiving option. And you're talking about a guy who's 30, who's a cast-off from the Packers. And he wasn't exactly a great Packer receiver. He was, if I remember correctly, he was the one who dropped everything. That's his number one receiving option. Then you got Streeter. And you just got a bunch of young guys and everything else. So, it's an ugly year for Oakland. I still don't. A lot of teams like to say this. It's funny. I think this is a better 0-7 team. This might be the best 0-7 team I've ever seen, if that makes any sense. They look good in games. They play close games. But they play a brutal schedule. I only had them winning one game, and I'm not 100% confident. Who did I think I had them beating like the Bears or something. Or no, they don't play the Bears. Who the fuck did I have them playing? I think it was like St. Louis. Yeah, I had them beating St. Louis as their only win of the season, unless the Broncos are resting their starters in Week 17. Other than that, I think that's, they play the Bills. You never know with those Bills. You know what they like to do to me, so. But the Bills, the Rams, and a resting Denver team are the only wins I think they can get this year for the rest of their schedule. That's how brutal it is. They've got, let's see, coming up this week, they're not on a bye. Who are they playing? They got Seattle this week. The week after that, they got Denver. Then they got San Diego. Then they got Kansas City. Then after that is a St. Louis game. Then after that, they've got the 49ers. They got Kansas City again after that. They got Buffalo in 16 and Denver in 17. They don't exactly have the easiest schedule in the world to try and make something happen. So, 0-16, it could be a possibility. All right, so what game was that? Oh, it was the Browns-Raiders, right? Did I finish talking about it? I'm finished talking about it. I don't care. Next up, the big game, the fun game. The Steelers win 51-34 over the Colts. Ben Roethlisberger playing arguably the best quarterback game of all time. 40 of 49 for 522 yards, 6 touchdowns, no picks. Ben Roethlisberger, you got to wonder how much of Ben Roethlisberger's career, statistically anyways, was kind of wasted playing on a defense run-heavy team. Like, he is perfectly capable. This is his offensive line. I don't think he got sacked in this entire game. And if he did, he doesn't, like, obviously wasn't that often. He had all the time in the world to make these throws. And clearly, I mean, a lot of quarterbacks are going to perform better when you have time, but there have been a lot better offensive lines. Tony Romo plays behind a better offensive line than this every week. And he has never put up numbers like this. Peyton Manning has never put up numbers like this. Tom Brady's never put up numbers like this. Ben Roethlisberger just did. And Andrew Luck, with 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, he did have 2 picks. But Andrew Luck threw for 400 yards and got outplayed in the same game. And Le'Veon Bell had another 92 yards running. So it's not like they only passed the ball all game. He had 24 rushing attempts. They just had the ball. Time of possession, they had it for almost 40 minutes. 40 minutes. That is insane. And it was 51-34. Like, I remember seeing it, and they were up pretty big. And you felt like the Colts still had a chance. You know, because it's Andrew Luck. I'm just like, yeah, well, what was that? It's 35-20. Yeah, I was still feeling like, yeah, they can still do it. A lot of other teams, I'd be like, nope, that's it, game over. But no, 35-20 and Andrew Luck there. Yeah, I still would have put my money on the Colts. So, and a big win by the Steelers, putting them to 5-3. I'm still not in love with this team. I still feel like they have the makings of like an 8-8 team, although maybe 9-7. But in this AFC North, who even knows? Any one of these 4 teams could win a division outside of the Browns, and it wouldn't surprise me. Although I do expect the Browns, if they finish within a game or 2, or even won it, it wouldn't shock me that much. Because it looks like they finally figured out their coach. Again, Ahmad Bradshaw, that's your running back, Indianapolis. Stop giving it to Trent Richardson. You bombed the trade. It happens. You overpaid for him in the first place, but you bombed the trade. Let it go. Just let it go. It's okay. But good game for the Steelers. Roethlisberger, the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for over 500 yards twice. Again, he's the first. So, Roethlisberger, I'm sorry, guys. Roethlisberger is the first ballot Hall of Famer in my book. Steve Young got into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on less merit. So, Roethlisberger gets in, and I don't care if he never gets another ring. He's already got 2. That gives him 2 more than this. Okay, the class of 83. 83, 84, whatever it was, with Marino and Elway and Kelly. 2 rings between them. And that's only because Elway got the 2 rings in his final 2 years. The class of 04. Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning. That's 4 rings right there, and they're not done yet. So it's but yeah, so Roethlisberger already has as many rings as that entire class of 84. Don't tell me that you want to throw Schaub in there, because I really don't. And don't talk about J.P. Lossman. I don't want to talk about it. Next up, we got the New Orleans Saints exploding after halftime, winning 44-23 over the Packers. This is what I mean. This is why I think they can go 10-6, because they can have games like this, and their points differential isn't that huge. I believe they're 3-4. I believe they're like plus 11. Like, I don't think they're exactly like they have not gotten blown out. They're just losing at the last second or just not quite doing enough to win. So all they need to do, and it's weird to say this about a veteran team, but they need to learn how to finish. You can say that about a veteran team. Every year it's different. There's always different components. They need to learn how to finish. That's what it comes down to. New Orleans, plus 11-point differential. They are the only team under 500 with a positive to go to the Super Bowl. To lose, but to go to the Super Bowl. I don't. It's weird to say. I don't. It's weird to say. I don't think they get there this year. But like I said, with the NFL, do go 10-5. But 10-7 playoffs. I know momentum doesn't mean much, but they do. They would play that wild card game.
They load it up now. Bring out the jumbo formation. There's the offense.
That wild card game. That momentum could be big. Oh. The NFC South might be terrible, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can't get a Super Bowl. It's just very likely that you won't get a Super Bowl contender out of there. Just 408 lives, just Aaron Rodgers, and then a bunch of guys who were almost good.
They bring him down at the 41-yard line.
That was a power running play that time by the offense. It picked up some good yards. Nothing like it.
Aaron Rodgers, and then a bunch of guys who were almost good.
And get some tough running yards.
And that is nothing against the, the offensive line is sort of a little shaky. Eddie Lacy's in.
Beyond the markers, it's a first down.
And it's sort of a little shaky. Eddie Lacy's inconsistent. The defense has really never looked that good. So it's, I don't know. I still think that can get them into the playoffs. I don't know if they'll win the division, especially if they lose their next game against Detroit. But, I mean, I think, where did I write it down? I'll go back to my fake standings. I had Green Bay and the Lions both going 12-4. So, yes, I still believe in this team. I don't know, Saints. I mean, with my fake standings, you would have, this would be a rematch. Because the Packers would be the 5 seed. Yeah, they would be the 5 seed. Dallas would be a 6 seed at 11-5 with this. So maybe the Saints could carry some of this momentum, but maybe not. Maybe they just win their home game. And wrapping up the week, we got those Cowboys I was just talking about. Tight loss, 20-17 in overtime. Colt McCoy looking pretty good. I think he had a pick. He didn't have any touchdowns. Only had 5 incompletions. You can call that system whatever. I don't care. That's still only 5 incompletions on 30 passes. And a yard shy of 300, 299. Tony Romo, like I said, he went out injured. DeMarco Murray, 19 rushes for 141 yards. And then 4 catches for 80 yards. 23 touches. So he came down. Because he was over 30, I think, for most of these games. 28, 29 carries plus 2 or 3 receptions. So he came down on his workload. And Tony Romo, if he doesn't go out, they win. Because I think they would have gotten another touchdown. So I wouldn't panic. It's just a loss. My buddy Eric, who lives in Texas and hates the Cowboys, is saying that Tony Romo should just rest until after the bye week because the game against Arizona won't be important. No. Now, of course, next week's game against Arizona, that's not going to be important at all. It's clearly not going to have any playoff ramifications at this rate. To which his reply was, well, they're not going to both be contending for the number 1 seed. And I'm like, well, no, but they might be both going for the number 6. You don't know those are 2 teams we're talking about. Like, most people are not confident in their sustainability just because of injury concerns that have not only already happened, but could potentially happen. So, yeah, look, there's Tony Romo. Hopefully Tony Romo plays this weekend. I don't know how much it's going to sway my pick. That's going to be the toughest game, I think, this season I've had to pick. I don't know that it will sway my pick, but it might. So, I don't know. You know, Redskins don't get too excited. You know, RG3 comes back. You might see Colt McCoy sooner than you'd like to. And then real quick, because this is Thursday that this is going up, Thursday night game. We got those New Orleans Saints playing at Carolina. New Orleans they're pretty good on prime time. Carolina's not very good. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Saints as one of their 2 road wins this year. I think this will be one of them, and if they win this game, you can just hand the division to New Orleans now. If they win this game, they can go 8-8 and win this division, because they would still have that home game in their pocket against Carolina coming up. You heard me just talk about New Orleans. You know, Carolina, I like Cam Newton. I think everything else is sort of figuring itself out. The defense for Carolina isn't playing nearly as well as they need to in order for them to win. So I think this is where New Orleans sort of puts their stamp on this terrible division and sort of just proceed as if it's their own. I say this looking at my standings, and the Saints are now 0-3. So then again, the Bucs 3-0. So yeah, that's what I think is going to happen Thursday. And hopefully I get it right. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more about it, please subscribe to me. If you really like this video in particular, please hit that little like button. It means a lot to me. I'm going to look into putting this up on iTunes, since it is technically a podcast. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, if that's even worth my time. I feel like if there's no strings attached, I don't see a reason not to try and market myself a little bit more. If that does happen, I'm going to have to slightly change up the format of this. The gameplay audio would just be muted. You'd hear me talking way less about the video game. That's not 100% true at all now, is it? You'd hear a little bit of it different. But anyways, let me know what you think. If you guys are on iTunes, keep an eye out for it. I've obviously let you guys know if that's what I decide to do. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.